After my husband died heroically, I sold our house to pay off all his debts, struggled to raise our daughter, and told her she must grow up to be a great person like her father. During a trip abroad, I unexpectedly saw my supposedly dead husband on a cruise ship hugging my best friend. It turned out he had faked his death to deceive me and run away with my best friend. My daughter's belief shattered. And in despair, she jumped off the cruise ship and committed suicide. When I went to save my daughter, someone pushed me from behind, and I was also pulled into the sea. Meanwhile, my husband was hugging my former best friend, looking smug and pleased. They stared at us struggling in the water like fools, laughing heartily and calling us idiots. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn back to the day my husband faked his death. 1. It was raining heavily today, and a child from the village fell into the river. My husband, Pan, rushed to save the child and jumped directly into the rushing water from the bridge. The child was rescued, but my husband never showed up. I held my 2-year-old daughter and searched anxiously until midnight. Then my best friend, Jomei, came running to tell me that Pan had been found, but it seemed he was already gone. I was almost carried to the scene by Jomei. A crowd of villagers surrounded the area. The rescued child and the parents were all kneeling on the ground, crying bitterly. Auntie Sia, Uncle Mia died to save me. Woo. Woo. I will definitely take good care of you and support you in your old age. The rescued child cried even more, gasping for breath. In my previous life, the news of Pan saving a drowning child spread throughout the city. Everyone praised my husband as a heroic and righteous man. I carried this honor while raising my young daughter, and no matter how hard it was, I felt proud. I also taught my daughter to be a brave, just, and kind person like her father. Looking at Pan lying motionless on the ground, at this moment, I suddenly felt truly pitiful. To run away with his mistress and to preserve his good reputation in the village, he actually thought of faking his death to escape. And my best friend, Jomei, also immigrated abroad later, but she would come back every year to visit me and also to see my in-laws. Later, she even came back with her son. Every time I would ask her, "Where is the child's father?" she said the child's father is abroad, busy with work, and has no time to come back. It turns out this child is actually my husband's. She came back specifically to see my in-laws, and also to take a look at my misfortune. The ambulance is already on the scene. The doctor said with great emotion, "We have done our best. Your husband could not be saved. You should start preparing for the funeral arrangements as soon as possible." Jomei supported me and said, "Xianing, leave everything here to me. I will help you handle it. I know you are devastated by your husband's death and probably don't have the energy to deal with his funeral affairs. In my previous life, when I saw my husband dead, I couldn't even stand steadily, let alone have the mind to handle what came next. So, everything was left to Jomei to handle. This time, I looked at Pan lying on the ground. I tied my daughter to my back. No need. I'll handle it myself. 2. Jomei looked at me in shock, then comforted me. "Xianing, I know how you're feeling right now. Leave the rest to me. I'll take your husband to the crematorium, and I'll arrange the funeral for you." 2. The parents of the rescued child were neighbors in the village, also surnamed Zhou, named Zhou Wei. He hurriedly said, "And me, sister. Don't worry. Brother Nya is our family's lifesaver. These matters should be handled by us. Son, hurry and kowtow to your aunt." The rescued child quickly knelt down and kowtowed to me. The villagers who had gathered around also felt heartache for me. Let me hurry back home to take good care of Pan's only flesh and blood. Jomei felt reassured and even gave Zhou Wei a meaningful look. Zhou Wei even came out specifically to help, wanting to hold my daughter. In my previous life, Zhou Wei tried several times to break into my house, but I always drove him out. I cried my heart out every day, holding my daughter and missing my husband. I don't understand why, even though my husband saved Zhou Wei's son, Zhou Wei is so ungrateful and keeps trying to bully me, even wanting to force me into marriage. Now I understand Zhou Wei and Jomei are in cahoots. This was all something they had planned long ago. I avoided Zhou Wei's hand and walked to Pan. I told the doctor, "No cremation. I'm going to donate my husband's body. I've already called the donation center and their people will be here shortly." The doctor was clearly also summoned by Jomei, and whether he was even a real doctor was another matter. He instinctively glanced at Jomei. Jomei rushed forward in panic, standing in front of Pan. "Xian Ning, Your brother-in-law died heroically while doing the right thing. You should hurry up and have him cremated and buried properly. Besides, your brother-in-law was superstitious. Donating his body would prevent him from resting in peace. He definitely wouldn't agree to it. I coldly watched Jo Mei put on a show. Nyan Pan is my husband. Do you know him better or do I? He was willing to sacrifice himself to save a neighbor's child. His vision is truly broad. Don't judge him with your petty mind. He once said he wanted to benefit society even after death. Donating his body is fulfilling his wish in life. Jo Mei was stunned. Completely surprised that I could speak so brazenly. They'd been involved for a long time. Today's incident was their masterpiece. How could Nyan Pan possibly want to donate his body? I started crying as I spoke. I'm already heartbroken about donating his body. But I still want to fulfill my husband's last wish. Jo Mei, we're best friends. You'll definitely support me, right? Jo Mei was speechless. Her face so awkward that she couldn't even force a smile. I even saw Nyan Pan's facial skin and the corner of his eye twitch slightly on the ground. If I didn't know he was faking his death, I would have thought I was delusional from excessive sorrow. The donation center arrived very quickly as if they were afraid we might change our minds. The center director first bowed to Nyan Pan, then bowed to me. Family members are truly righteous. We will take the body away now, I said. My husband just passed away. His corneas are still fresh. They can be harvested first. They can bring light to those in need and for my husband. It would be a great act of merit. The director gave me a thumbs up. 3. Our vehicle has been professionally modified to allow for sterile operations. If you don't mind, we can perform the procedure right here on the spot today. A blind patient will regain their sight thanks to your husband's donation. All right. I agree. I'll sign right away. Jo Mei was frantic and quickly stopped them from moving Nyan Pan into the car. No. I don't agree. How can you operate on the spot? At least take him to the hospital. This is reckless. It's so unsanitary. The director said. Don't worry. We guarantee the cornea we remove will be clean. Jo Mei was speechless. Her mention of unclean wasn't referring to the harvested corneas anyway. It's not allowed. San Ning. If you act recklessly like this, your brother-in-law will hate you from beyond the grave. I covered my face feigning heartbreak. Jo Mei, can you stop making a scene? This is my husband. Do I understand him better or do you? What's your motive for constantly obstructing this? Could it be that my husband isn't actually dead? Director. You must investigate thoroughly for me. Is my husband still alive? The director was startled. That can't be. We absolutely cannot perform an autopsy on a living person. The director turned to the doctors and nurses beside him and asked. You've all examined her thoroughly. She's definitely dead, right? The doctor, sweating profusely, replied. Yes. She's dead. We couldn't save her. The director sighed in relief, then turned to me and said. Family member, please sign here. Once you've signed, we'll proceed with removing the corneas. If there are no issues with the other organs, we'll take them too and give them to those in need. I glanced at Jo Mei, Jo Wei, and the doctor from earlier. Their faces looked strange and the three of them stared at each other nervously wiping sweat from their brows. I picked up the pen and was about to sign. No signing. I don't agree. It was my in-laws who had arrived. As soon as my mother-in-law came in, she snatched the consent form and tore it to pieces right in front of me. My father-in-law started by slapping me right away. You wicked woman. How cruel you are. Your husband just sacrificed himself to save someone and now you want to dissect his body. How can you be so evil and heartless? He was your husband and you actually want to dig out his heart and eyes. Oh heavens. How did our family end up marrying such a wicked woman with a rotten heart? My in-laws publicly humiliated me. And then my father-in-law stopped the director of the donation center. We are not donating. This is our son. We don't agree. We just want our son to be laid to rest properly. Cremate him immediately. I originally thought my in-laws were not involved. Now it seems they are also part of this. Seeing how agitated the family was, the director had no choice but to abandon the donation plan and return the body to us. A few more cars arrived at that moment. They were reporters I had called. The reporters rushed forward, cameras on their backs. We heard that after a brave hero died while acting courageously, his family even donated his body. So heroic. We must broadcast this live. Several media outlets had already set up their cameras. Everyone present was stunned except for me. I said to my in-laws, Nyan Pan is a respectable man. He values his reputation above all. You know that. If he hadn't mentioned donating his body, I certainly wouldn't have said anything. I'm his wife. Don't you think I know him better than anyone? Mom. Dad. You've already hit me. I know you're heartbroken over your son's death. But I'm his wife. I'll have to raise our child alone. Don't I feel even more pain than you? So please let us do one last thing for him. Let his organs be donated first. Then cremate him. Can we fulfill his last wish? As I spoke, my tears fell in torrents. Everyone was moved to tears, praising me for being so understanding and wise, and calling my husband a hero. The donation director was also moved and firmly held my hand. Don't worry. We will definitely fulfill your husband's last wish. As long as you agree, we can proceed with the donation. I held my daughter, tears streaming down my face. Thank you. The director quickly returned the gesture. No. No. I should be the one thanking you. Your act can save several families. Thank you. All the cameras were set up. The villagers were all clapping. The reporters also held their microphones. They're there choked with emotion as they reported. I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips, almost unable to hold back my laughter, but I held my daughter, burying my face in her embrace, laughing so hard I was nearly convulsing. Baby. In this lifetime, Mom will definitely protect you completely. In the previous life, your father took away a good reputation, took all the family's money, left us with millions in debt, and eloped with Jo May to live a carefree life abroad, raising children. In this lifetime, we will repay them one by one, making sure none of them have an easy time, not to mention media streams. There are still many people holding their phones, live streaming the scene. The viewers in the live stream are all moved to tears. His wife seems to be on the verge of breaking down. Yet she insists on donating her husband's body. It's so touching. So noble. The wife is the one suffering the most. Yet she made an even more painful decision. She must live a long and healthy life. Whoa. Whoa. I don't dare to look. I really don't dare to look. I can't bear to see such a heartbreaking scene. Amidst everyone's anticipation for wait a moment, Jo May rushed forward and stood in front of Nia Pan's body. Jo Wei followed her, also bringing the child rescued by Nia Pan. Brother Nia saved my son. From now on, we must offer sacrifices to him every year. In our place, there's a belief that if a body is not intact, the soul cannot rest. So the body must be complete for us to properly honor him each year. Then my in-laws quickly stepped forward. Yes. Our family also holds this belief. In short, they refused to donate. Seeing that both the parents and villagers disagreed, the director had no choice but to give up. The reporters also expressed their understanding. After all, some customs still need to be respected. Jo May breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at me with great satisfaction. She immediately averted her gaze when she saw me looking at her. If that's the case, then cremation won't do. Only burial will work. Jo Wei said. We must bury him. Our village has no rule against burial. I said. Fine then. Let's bury him as soon as possible. Put my husband's body in a coffin. Jo May said. Where would we find a ready-made coffin? Don't we need to prepare one? First, let's move brother-in-law's body away. We can bury him once. The coffin is ready. Who says there's no ready-made coffin? My in-laws have one at home, prepared by my father-in-law for himself. Now, we can take it out for my husband to use. He is a hero. How can we just leave his body anywhere? To show him respect, he must be placed in a coffin and buried. As soon as I said it, the villagers felt it made even more sense. Another villager suggested, since everyone is here, why don't we hold the funeral today and give Nyapan a grand send-off? And the journalists can broadcast the whole thing live. Nyapan is a true hero of our village. With that said, the villagers all volunteered to help. They believed that Nyapan's sacrifice in saving people was heroic and that the villagers' assistance was also a great act of merit. Before my in-laws could refuse, I bowed gratefully to the crowd. Thank you all for your help. I, Xining, will surely repay you with my life in the next one. You're too kind. Too kind. It's all something we should do. The village chief even took the lead in offering to arrange a funeral for my family. For a moment, my in-laws were speechless. They didn't know how to refuse. Even the journalists and media have sent people to handle the arrangements. My father-in-law reluctantly said, I don't know where the coffin is. Either. The village chief said. Oh, Lanya. You must be so overwhelmed with grief. How could you possibly lose such a large coffin? Come on. I'll go with you to your house to carry it. I know where it is. Father-in-law. 5. The funeral was thus hastily arranged. While preparing my husband's body for burial, I deliberately asked the doctor again in a loud, choked voice, "Is my husband really dead?" The doctor glanced at the body on the ground, then looked at me. "It's been lying dead for so long. Is it still appropriate to come back to life now?" He forced himself to say, "Yes. My condolences. He's dead." I saw Nyapan's eyelids twitching. Is he going to come back to life or not? If we don't deceive him now, he'll be buried with all the honors. Back then, he'd rather fake his death to protect his reputation. At this critical moment, if we make him get up again, he'd probably rather die. This is a nationwide live broadcast. Everyone in the village is watching. The medals for acts of bravery are being rushed by the police department. Some people really care more about their face than their life. The body was placed into the coffin. When the coffin was being sealed, Joe May kept trying to stop the villagers from nailing it shut. "Less nails. Less nails. You just don't get it. How can we be less vigilant? We have to nail it down tight," the villager said. "Don't worry. I'm a professional. It's absolutely secure and won't damage the coffin." Joe May was almost in tears. The in-laws stood to the side, surrounded by people offering comfort. They accepted it guiltily while anxiously glancing at the coffin. "This should finally be over now." Then I said, "Why wait for a specific day? Since everyone is here, let's all help bury my husband's body on the mountain." The village chief said, "Right. Let's send off the hero together." Upon hearing this, Joe May collapsed to the ground. The village chief comforted her, saying, "You've shown great concern, too. Seeing your best friend's husband cry so bitterly. You truly are a good friend." Joe May was so overwhelmed that she could barely shed a tear amid the sound of Swona horns and firecrackers. The crowd solemnly carried the coffin up the mountain. I held the child and followed beside the coffin. My in-laws supported the coffin, walking unsteadily. I saw them exchange glances with Joe May, then quickly averted their eyes when our gazes met. Filled with resentment, Nyapan had already been inside the sealed coffin for an hour. He hasn't made a move yet. Thinking that his in-laws and Joe May must be trying to come up with a solution. But in such an enclosed space, staying for another hour would lead to severe oxygen deprivation. He would definitely die within 3 hours. Now, the Swona and firecrackers are sounding together. Even if the person in the coffin struggles later, no one will hear. Aren't you so fond of pretending to be dead? Nyapan? Die thoroughly in this life. Don't even think about getting out of that coffin. 6. The coffin was buried, sealed tightly. My in-laws were clutching shovels, eager to jump in and dig a hole. At that moment, a banging sound came from somewhere, as if someone was calling for help. I quickly lit a firecracker, which went off with a loud crackling noise, drowning out the cries for help. Then I fell to my knees and burst into tears again. My daughter also started crying loudly, following me. Others, perhaps moved by my emotion, couldn't help but wail and cry as well. Some older women in the village were professional mourners. Seeing me cry, their professional habit kicked in, and they started wailing loudly, too. The grandmother finally couldn't bear it anymore and picked up the shovel to start digging. "My son isn't dead. He's not dead." She probably never imagined that the kind villagers and reporters would still be around after so long. Seeing me about to cry and mourn all night long at this moment, she no longer cared about saving face. Joe May quickly picked up the shovel. "My brother-in-law isn't dead. He's not dead." Her father-in-law also came to help. "My son isn't dead." Watching them three digging the hole with great effort, everyone thought they were too heartbroken to face the fact that their son had died. After all, even the doctor had declared him dead, and they had almost donated his body. How could he not be dead? Everyone quickly stepped forward to stop the three of them, kindly offering condolences and urging them to bear their loss with strength. The mother-in-law pushed away the person trying to hold her, furious. "My son is not dead. He's still alive. Save my son. Hurry. Save my son." Seeing her frantic state, the mourning team cried even more desperately. After all, it's the elderly seeing off the young. So tragic. So tragic. The reporters were even more moved. They put away their cameras and also began to cry. The scene was so heartbreaking. Our crying was loud, and the firecrackers were even louder, completely drowning out Nyapan's cries for help. No matter how hard he pounded on the coffin lid or shouted. No one else could hear. I was crying and laughing at the same time. Husband. I protected your good reputation for you this life. You just die completely. Die thoroughly. I'll live well with your inheritance. This time. The in-laws really sat on the ground, slapping their thighs and crying sincerely. My son isn't really dead. He's really not dead. The father-in-law also slapped his chest and shouted. He's not dead. He's still alive. Please open the coffin. Open it. Wah. The crying grew louder, mingling with the sound of firecrackers until there was not a sound left in the coffin. The in-laws slumped down in despair, their faces blank and expressionless. Jo May supported them, her eyes also welling up with tears. Jo Wei stood by, wanting to help but feeling powerless. Who would have known that everyone could stay so long burying Niampan so securely? This time he's truly dead. After everyone had left, Grandma rushed up and tried to hit me. I instinctively grabbed her wrist. There's no one left. Can I still call her? You killed my son. I stood up, wiped away my tears. What are you talking about? Your son died a hero, drowning while trying to save Jo Wei's child. How could I have killed him? Jo Wei is still here. He's a witness. Now the whole country knows about your son's heroic deeds. Mom, don't falsely accuse me. Do you want your son to have died in vain? The mother-in-law was suddenly speechless. They couldn't admit that they had conspired to fake a death. Jo Wei had already started helping dig the coffin. The mother-in-law no longer cared about hitting me. She hurriedly joined in digging the coffin as well. And you even threw me a shovel. You useless thing. Come dig quickly, my mother-in-law ordered me. What's wrong with you all? People can't come back to life. I know you're all suffering. But you must accept the reality. I tried to persuade them. Everyone was speechless and didn't want to waste any more words on me. They were digging at the coffin with all their might. In such a narrow, confined space, a person consumes about 0.5 cubic meters of oxygen per hour. With the current high temperature and Niampan's desperate struggle earlier, the oxygen would have been depleted within 2 hours. Now 4 hours have already passed. If Niampan survives, he's truly lucky. I held my daughter and kept urging them to stop digging, to let Niampan rest in peace. I knew they wouldn't listen. I also wanted to see what my husband looked like now that he had been dug up. Died of suffocation in the coffin. It must have been painful. But compared to my past life, this pain is nothing. He not only faked his death to escape, but also left me with a huge loan to repay. I raised my daughter while working various jobs, all the while guarding against Jo Wei's repeated attempts to humiliate me. Later, I finally paid off my debts, left the village for the city, and raised my daughter to become a successful person. I turned down many suitors, all because my heart was still with my husband who had sacrificed himself heroically for others. I always told my daughter that if she were to marry, she should marry a hero like her father. The daughter also takes her father as a role model. As a result, we unexpectedly encountered my husband and my best friend overseas. They were happily vacationing with their 2 children, living a luxurious life after my daughter and I died. They returned to the country, inherited my property, and brought my in-laws abroad to enjoy their later years. A whole family of rotten seeds. 7. The coffin opened. Brother Nyan. Jo May cried out in despair. I walked over and glanced down. My husband's hands were covered in blood, and the coffin lid was marked with bloody scratches. His eyes were wide open, like copper bells, his limbs twisted and tangled, his expression frozen in agony, unable to close his eyes even in death. I actually heard him banging against the coffin. Of course, I knew how much pain he was in. This is being buried alive. Child, you died so tragically. Child. The in-laws broke down and cried hysterically. Jo May sobbed uncontrollably, rushing to me and pointing at me. You killed him. It's you. Wasn't my husband dead before? Didn't you all say he was dead? Oh my God. He was buried alive. How tragic. How could you be so cruel? Why did you say my husband was dead when he clearly wasn't? What on earth were you thinking? Jo May was left speechless. I cried even louder, kneeling before my husband and holding our daughter close to him. Husband, who could be so cruel? Even the doctor said you were dead. If I had known you weren't dead, I would never have buried you alive. That doctor. I'm going to report that doctor. I cried and stumbled, falling to the ground. The mother-in-law was moved, grabbed the shovel, and struck Jo May with it. It's all your fault. You wicked woman. That doctor was bribed by you. You've done this. And you've killed my son. You must pay for my son. Pay for my son. Jo May was beaten to the ground. But she wasn't someone to be pushed around. She got up and grabbed the shovel. It wasn't just my idea. You all knew about it. Why are you blaming me now? Did I want to see Nyan Pan die and win? We were burying him alive just now. None of you stopped it. The father-in-law also came over to hit Jo May. But she pushed him away forcefully. You old fool. What right do you have to hit me? As if it's all my fault. Everyone had a part in this. The father-in-law was furious. What did you call me? Old thing? You venomous woman. I'll kill you. Jo May was trying to mediate the argument. I was watching the drama unfold. A dog-eat-dog drama. I really couldn't help but laugh. Taking another glance at Nyan Pan lying dead in the coffin, I curled my lips into a smile, feeling absolutely delighted. Jo May and my in-laws ended up beating each other bloody and were sent to the hospital. I didn't visit my in-laws at the hospital for the entire day. Just say my husband died and I'm grieving. Just like in my previous life. The loan sharks came to my house looking for me. In my previous life, I took on the loan sharks alone to avoid burdening my in-laws. This time, I brought the debt collectors to my in-laws' house. My in-laws had injuries on their hands and legs with bandages wrapped around them. They shook their heads directly. My son just died. No money. But we have 2 lives to give. If you want to collect debts, go after the young ones. Don't bother us old people. They meant for the debt collectors to come after me. I said from the side. They still have 2 apartments in the city. Selling them would be enough to pay off the debt. My in-laws stared at me wide-eyed. Utterly astonished. They were probably shocked that I knew about it. Nyan Pan had made all the arrangements before faking his death. He had bought 2 properties under his parents' names, intended for the children he had with Jo May. Not using Naya Pan's name is precisely to avoid the inheritance falling on my head. The loan shark's eyes lit up upon hearing this. You 2 old fools. Who would have thought you were so rich? Sell the house immediately and pay back the money. Upon hearing the news, Jo May hurried to her in-laws' house. Can't sell it. This house was left to my child by Naya Pan. Loan shark. What's it got to do with you? Jo May, clutching her stomach, looked at me with disdain. At this point, I won't hide it anymore. I'm pregnant. Naya family's child. Twins. In fact, sinning. I don't want to hurt you either. But Naya Pan and I truly love each other. No. The Naya family's lineage depends on me. This house can't be sold. She had been looking at me quite smugly, wanting to see some expression of pain or sorrow on my face. I burst out laughing. You all heard it. Gentlemen. My in-laws indeed have 2 houses. While I, an orphan widow, have nothing. Chasing after me is useless. Even if you push me to death. I have no money. But they have 2 houses. Loan sharks aren't fools. They want money, not lives. So I walked out safely. They closed the door of her in-laws' house and didn't let Jo May come out. I heard Jo May shouting inside. What are you doing? This is a society governed by law. Big sister. We're loan sharks. Are you still talking about the law with us? When your husband borrowed money from us, why didn't he talk about the law? His mother should pay us back. Anyway, I don't know what methods the loan sharks used. The in-laws' house has indeed been sold. Selling it wasn't enough. They even mortgaged the dilapidated house in the village as well. When they had nowhere else to go, they came to me. But where could they possibly find me? I had long since run far away with my daughter. I never wanted to have any contact with my late husband's family again in this lifetime. Later, I heard that Jo May was driven out by her brother, who complained that she was wasting food at home by bringing along 2 burdens. She never even dared to say who the father of her child was. Which decent man would dare to marry her? But Jo Wei married her because only Jo Wei knew who the father of her child was, and also knew about her past troubles. She didn't live well in Jo Wei's home, either. Jo Wei also complained that her 2 children wasted too much rice. Not only did he beat and scold her, but he also abused her 2 children with Nyan Pan every day. In short, compared to her previous life, this life felt like hell. Years later, I hired someone to go back to the village and buy back my in-laws' house because I knew the house would be demolished in the future. In the previous life, my in-laws took all the demolition compensation money abroad and gave it to Nyan Pan and Jo May. In this life, Jo Wei has accumulated a pile of gambling debts and wants to sell the house to pay them off. Jo May desperately tried to stop him, refusing to agree, saying that the house would be demolished in the future. Joe Wei thought she had lost her mind and gave her a severe beating. His house was sold quickly. I found someone to go and buy it. Until Joe Wei sold the house. Joe May went crazy, chasing him with a knife to kill him. I told you this house would be demolished in the future. Why didn't you believe me? You damn gambler. I'm going to kill you. Of course. Joe May didn't succeed in killing him. She was also sent to a mental hospital by Joe Wei and locked up. I heard that in the mental hospital. Joe May kept shouting my name. I was reborn. Xiaoning was reborn. Too. This ruined everything. I shouldn't have lived like this. Let me out. She kept calling my name. So, if I didn't go see her, it would seem unreasonable. I met Joe May in the psychiatric hospital. She was wearing a patient gown. Already tortured beyond recognition. Her eyes hollow and lifeless. Only when she saw me did her eyes light up. Xiaoning, you've been reborn. Haven't you? Dressed in my imposing, high-end attire, I stood before her, looking at her as if she were a fool from my past life. Now, I have plenty of money. All my properties have been demolished for redevelopment. Relying on the memories from my previous life, I entered a booming industry and made a fortune. Yes, I have been reborn. Joe May immediately turned back and shouted to the doctor and nurses. She admitted it. She admitted she came back from rebirth. I wasn't lying. I told you I wasn't lying. I said my house was going to be demolished. Wasn't it really demolished? I said my mind was normal. Wasn't it? The nurse came over and forced her to take medicine. Yes. Yes. Everyone here is normal. Open your mouth and take the medicine. The nurse looked at me, dressed in fine clothes, and said, "You're the first one to visit Joe May. Are you?" Very close to her. Not close. Just know her. I just came to see what happened to Joe May. I know she was sober. But the more clearly she shouted that she had been reborn, the more people treated her as mentally ill. This is the fate she ended up with. Not bad. Heaven watches what people do. One should really not be too cruel. Revenge will come sooner or later. I walked out of the hospital, and my daughter was already waiting in a luxury car to take me to dinner. In this life, my husband faked his death, but I ended up becoming incredibly wealthy. I don't thank him. This is all what I deserve. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am bound to a sim system. Whoever I sim for becomes rich. In my previous life, I simmed my childhood friend into a billionaire. As a result, he hired someone to run me over, then turned around and flew off into the sunset with his one true love. In this lifetime, I've set my sights on my best friend who works 3 jobs a day. Why bother chasing after trashy men when getting rich with your girlfriends is so much better? At the class reunion, I drew a dare, and my childhood friend asked me to buy wontons from the north side of the city. My best friend stood up for me. Simon, are you crazy? The north side is over 30 kilometers away, and it's pouring rain outside. Aren't you afraid Nancy will get drenched and catch a cold? Simon looked calm, with not a trace of worry in his eyes. I forced a smile. How could my best friend know that Simon only had eyes for his one true love? Lucy? The reason he asked me to buy wontons was that Lucy had just casually mentioned she wanted some. Simon said to me, "Nancy, if you don't want to, just forget it. Are you willing?" Before I could answer, several classmates bluntly said, "Is that even a question?" Nancy would definitely be willing. Everyone knows she's your biggest fan. Besides, now that you've succeeded in your business, Nancy will cling to you even more. Simon didn't argue back. His handsome features filled with certainty. After all, everyone knows that I'm madly in love with Simon. No matter what unreasonable demands he makes, I will satisfy him. But they don't know that I treat him so well because I am bound to a simp system. The simp system requires me to choose someone and unconditionally treat them well. The better I treat someone, the richer they become. I choose to treat my boyfriend Simon well. A large part of Simon's success in starting a business right after college is thanks to my system. But, as the saying goes, a simp ends up with nothing in the end. In my previous life, with my help, Simon became a business tycoon worth billions. But, within 2 years of our marriage, he betrayed me and got together with his high school sweetheart, Lucy. Simon watched the aurora with Lucy in the Arctic, kissed her under the desert stars, and set up fireworks for her all night by the sea, doing every romantic thing lovers could imagine. At that time, I had just had a miscarriage and was physically and emotionally fragile. Precisely when I needed my partner by my side. Later, in order to be with Lucy, Simon even forced me to divorce him. He said that in the past, he felt inferior and thought he wasn't good enough for Lucy, which is why they never ended up together. Now that he has achieved success and fame, he feels he can provide Lucy with a comfortable life and hopes to openly hold her hand in the sunlight. I didn't just accept it passively. I exposed Simon and Lucy's scandal online. This despicable couple was scolded until they were utterly humiliated. Simon's company's stock price plummeted wildly, and Lucy was also blacklisted within the industry, causing her to become hysterical and threatened suicide. Simon completely tore off all pretense with me, and in order to be with Lucy, he went so far as to hire someone to run me over and kill me. Nancy, would you be willing to go buy me some late-night snacks? Simon's words pulled my thoughts away from the past, and I answered without hesitation. I'm not willing. Whoever wants to be a simp can go ahead and do it. What did you say? Simon was taken aback. He hadn't expected that I, who had been so obedient to him lately, would say something like that. Lucy spoke up at that moment. Nancy, are you upset about what the classmates said? They were just joking. You don't need to take it to heart. Lucy acted as if she cared about me, but I knew that the reason those classmates targeted me was because Lucy had instructed them to do so. She had feelings for Simon, but at the time, she looked down on Simon for being poor and felt it would be embarrassing to be with him, so she kept ignoring him. Now Simon is with me, and his business has succeeded. She regretted it again. Along with that, she also resented me for being with Simon, targeting me both openly and covertly. Now that Lucy said this, her lackeys have turned their spears toward me. Yeah, we were just joking. You're not so petty that you can't take a little joke. Are you? Someone as narrow-minded as you doesn't deserve to be with someone as outstanding as Simon. Seeing the situation unfold exactly as she had anticipated, Lucy smiled faintly. I look at Simon. He shows no intention of speaking up for me. His expression cold. Lucy is right. You shouldn't be so petty. I had already anticipated this outcome. He is just that kind of person. Always unconditionally siding with Lucy. Unable to bear seeing her suffer even the slightest grievance. Still remembering the previous life. After Simon and Lucy's scandal was exposed, when they walked on the street, people would point fingers at them. At that time, Simon was already 32, no longer a reckless teenager of 17 or 18. Yet he ended up fighting with a passerby for Lucy's sake. My best friend was furious. Simon, Nancy is your girlfriend. Even if you don't stand up for her, how could you side with outsiders to bully her? I gently patted her hand, signaling her to calm down. Immediately, I quickly picked up the wine glass on the tea table and splashed it toward the people who were barking the loudest. Of course, I didn't spare the most important ones. Simon and Lucy. Screams erupted everywhere. Those who had been so arrogant just moments ago now looked like drowned rats, with their faces and clothes drenched in the golden yellow wine. I find them much more pleasing to the eye now. Nancy, what are you doing? I'm just playing a little joke on everyone. Too. I said with an innocent expression. Oh. No. You're not going to be that petty. Are you? You wouldn't hold a grudge over a little joke. Would you? Their faces turned red and then pale, looking absolutely delightful. After a long while, Lucy gritted her teeth and said, even jokes have their limits. Do you think what you did was amusing? I was taken aback. So, you also know that jokes have their limits. When I was called a simp earlier, I didn't see you being so righteous. You're such a hypocrite. Enough. Simon saw how angry Lucy was, her chest heaving heavily, and his gaze toward me was filled with displeasure. He pressed his thin lips together and pulled me in front of Lucy. Apologized to Lucy. It's a bit amusing. When I was being mocked just now, he chose to look the other way. Now that I've splashed wine on Lucy, he steps forward. Anyone who didn't know better would think Simon is Lucy's boyfriend. What if I refuse? Simon said with a cold face. Then let's break up. Simon, don't have such a malicious girlfriend. I slapped Simon across the face in return. You think I care? As soon as these words were spoken, not only Simon, but everyone present was stunned. Who didn't know that I was madly in love with Simon? Someone sneered. You'd better be telling the truth. Don't come crying back to Simon in a couple of days, begging to get back together. A simp like Nancy probably started regretting her words the moment she said them. Indeed, Simon is now a successful entrepreneur. A man as outstanding as him is hard to come by. Simon wore a cold, confident smile and said, Nancy, I know you're just speaking out of anger. As long as you apologize to Lucy, I can let it slide. The response to him was a crisp slap. What the hell are you barking about? I was blind before. Mistaking a piece of dog for a treasure. Now, get the hell out of my world. Simon's face darkened completely. The cold indifference in his eyes almost identical to that of his previous life. He said word by word, pausing deliberately. Nancy, don't you dare regret this. I chuckled lightly. I only regret one thing. That I didn't break up with you sooner. I didn't look at his gloomy face and walked away with my best friend. While waiting for a taxi at the door, the long unheard electronic sound of the system chimed again. Ding. Host. Your trial period as a devoted follower has ended. Do you choose to continue binding with Simon and help him reach the peak of his life? If the system hadn't suddenly spoken up, I would have almost forgotten that I have a chance to choose again who to be good to. After all, a simp might end up having everything they want, or they might end up with nothing at all. The system is quite considerate, giving me a year to consider whether the person I initially chose is truly worth my wholehearted devotion. If they aren't worth it, I can unbind from Simon and choose someone else to help make their life a little smoother. In my previous life, I was blinded by the affection of a childhood sweetheart. Both Simon and I were orphans, having grown up together in an orphanage since we were young. I still remember when I first arrived at the orphanage. I was thin and small, and I was bullied by the older children. It was Simon who stood in front of me and fought with those who bullied me. Finally, even though he was beaten black and blue, he did not back down. The boy said with utmost sincerity that he would protect me for a lifetime. I believed it. So I firmly and consistently chose to be good to Simon. For this, I paid a terrible price in this lifetime. I chose to switch targets without hesitation. When the system asked me who I would choose to fawn over this time, I looked at my best friend Molly beside me. Molly was actually my best friend from high school later. Molly went to another city for college, and we gradually lost touch. This high school reunion is how we reconnected. It turns out that friendship between best friends doesn't fade with time and distance. When I was wronged, she was the first to stand up and defend me. Molly. I want to be bound to Molly. I didn't hesitate to answer. Why bother with that scumbag? Isn't it better to make money with your girlfriends on the way back? Molly stood up for me. You've been with Simon from having nothing to being wealthy. Now that he's rich, he doesn't treat you well and only cares about that Lucy. It's just too unfair. I patted her hand and said, Don't worry. I won't let this go. The next day, I made a special trip to Simon's company. The secretary looked a bit strange when she saw me, saying that Simon was busy in his office and asked me to wait outside for a while. I knew Simon's schedule. He had no meetings to attend today, nor did he need to discuss matters with other executives. Combined with the secretary's expression, I understood everything. Simon was probably busy having a secret rendezvous with Lucy. I barged right in and saw Simon with his head lowered, carefully kissing Lucy. His eyes filled with an unmistakable depth of affection. When he saw me come in, a rare, almost imperceptible panic flashed across Simon's handsome face, but he quickly regained his composure. He looked displeased. What are you doing here? Lucy looked at me even more warily. You're not regretting breaking up with Simon and came here specifically to get back together with him, are you? Simon held Lucy's hand tightly and looked at me coldly. I'm already with Lucy, and there's no chance for us anymore. I rolled my eyes. Don't worry. I don't have the habit of collecting trash. Since we've broken up, let's make a clean break. I hold 30% of the company's shares, and for the sake of our past relationship, I can sell them to you at 50% above the market price. Such a high price. Are you out of your mind for money? Why don't you just make me pay double for it? I wish I could, but I know that Simon only has so many assets. He can't come up with any more, I said with a fake smile. If you don't want it, then I'll have no choice but to sell it to Mr. Robinson. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to acquire the shares I hold. President Robinson also holds 30% of the company's shares. With the shares I hold, I can become the largest shareholder of the company. This is a company founded by Simon himself, and it has promising development prospects. I believe you would not be happy to see his company fall into someone else's hands. As expected, after careful consideration, Simon gritted his teeth and agreed to my request. He didn't have enough liquid cash on hand, so he sold his real estate assets to raise the necessary funds. It can be said that all of Simon's savings over the years have ended up in my hands, Simon said with a smug expression. Nancy, don't think you've gotten the better deal. Under my management, the company is thriving. One day, the company's market value will multiply by hundreds or thousands of times. You'll regret it then, I said with certainty. That day will never come. Simon didn't know that once I decided to stop fawning over him, the system would take back all the good luck it had ever given him. This means Simon will become an ordinary person. I know Simon well. His work ability is fundamentally weak, and his luck has always been terrible. Still dreaming about the company growing big and strong. It would be a miracle if it doesn't go bankrupt. So, while the chips in my hand still hold value, I ruthlessly extorted a hefty sum from him. As for Lucy, when she saw that Simon had given me such a large sum of money, her eyes turned red with envy. I really misjudged you. I thought you genuinely cared for him, but it turns out you were after his money, I retorted lightly. Aren't you? Lucy was left speechless and stubbornly insisted. Of course I'm not, I said with a smile. It's fine to deceive others, but don't end up deceiving yourself, too. As soon as the money was in my hands, I went to find Molly. After all, I still had my simp duties to fulfill. Molly was very busy, working 3 jobs a day, and hardly had any time to meet with me. The last time she went to the high school reunion was because it was close to her part-time job, and she happened to be off work, so she rushed over. I found it strange. Molly's full-time job pays well, so there's no need for her to take on a part-time job at all. After some inquiries, I found out that Molly's mother is seriously ill, and she's working so hard to raise enough money for the medical expenses. And now, I've taken full advantage of Simon, so I'm definitely not short on money. On the weekend, Molly managed to steal a moment to meet with me. Without a second thought, I handed Molly a check for 1 million. Aren't we good friends? Why didn't you tell me about your mother's illness? Take this money and use it for her treatment. Molly looked at the check, her eyes slightly reddening. I'm sorry. I was mistaken to think you wouldn't lend it. During the time Molly's mother was ill, she truly saw the fickleness of human nature. All those relatives who used to visit frequently and seemed perfectly fine before now avoided her like the plague. When she went to borrow money for expenses, each claiming they had no funds, even relatives acted this way. So, she didn't believe that her high school best friend, whom she hadn't contacted in years, would lend her the money now. With tears in her eyes, Molly was about to write me an IOU. No need to go through all that trouble. I took Molly to a nearby mall and had her buy a scratch-off lottery ticket. Go ahead and scratch it. Molly quickly understood what I meant. You think I can win the $1 million prize and then have the money to pay you back? Molly smiled bitterly. Impossible. I've always had bad luck. I've never even won a buy one get one free offer. Indeed, Molly was famously unlucky back in our high school. Just then, a sharp voice rang out from behind us. It was Lucy. Talk about running into your nemesis. Not far away, Simon was on the phone, looking somewhat anxious, as if he were dealing with work-related matters. It seems that after leaving me, the company hasn't been running very smoothly. Simon was still carrying a bunch of luxury shopping bags. He had just been accompanying Lucy on a shopping trip. Lucy said calmly, Nancy, don't degrade yourself just because Simon left you. You're hanging out with someone like Molly. I've heard that Molly even worked at a nightclub before selling drinks. I squinted my eyes. None of your business. If you're that bored, go carry manure at the village entrance. You unexpectedly. Lucy actually held back and said with a smile, I know you're very upset that Simon left you and chose to be with me instead. But there's nothing you can do about it. He likes me. And he even bought me a big diamond ring. 3 carats. I glanced at the large diamond ring on her hand, my eyes flickering. That ring on her finger was worth at least 500,000. Lucy, do you want to make a bet with me? Lucy asked with great interest. What's the bet? I bet Molly can scratch off the $1 million prize. If she does, your big diamond ring is mine. If she doesn't, I'll give you $1 million. For Lucy, this was a sure-win deal. Without hesitation, she agreed. It's a bet. Molly hesitated a bit. Nancy, don't bet with her. My luck is really bad. Besides, the chances of winning big with scratch cards are already slim. Lucy said triumphantly. Nancy and I have already agreed. It's too late for you to back out now. Hurry up and scratch it. If you don't want to, just admit defeat to me. And I'll accept that, too. I looked at Molly encouragingly. Molly, just go ahead and scratch it. We might not lose. Lucy said with a smile. Keep talking tough. Once the results come out, let's see if you can still laugh. With my encouragement, Molly scratched off the coating of the scratch-off ticket. Soon, the first scratch-off ticket was revealed. No prize. The second one was scratched off. And there was no prize either. Scratching open the third one. Still no prize. Lucy burst into laughter. Nancy, I misunderstood you before. You're actually quite kind. Worried I might be short on money. And even wanting to give me $1 million. Molly's expression turned a bit sour upon hearing this. What's the rush? I still have 27 more to scratch. Come on. With your luck. Even if you scratch 300, you still wouldn't win prize. As soon as the words were spoken, Molly scratched off a 10,000 yuan prize. She was overjoyed. What do you mean I can't win? Look at this. Lucy was unimpressed. A 10,000 yuan prize? If someone didn't know better, they'd think you won 100,000. On the next ticket, Molly scratched off a 100,000 yuan prize. Lucy's expression stiffened. You just got lucky. There's nothing to be so proud of. If you're really that skilled, then win every single one from now on. Next, Molly proceeded to scratch off prizes of 10,000, 30,000, and 50,000, respectively. Lucy couldn't believe her eyes. How is this possible? Molly said with a cheerful smile. There's no helping it. When luck comes your way, you can't even stop it. Don't celebrate too soon. Although you did win, I doubt all these add up to $1 million. Molly had already gained confidence from scratching. Let's count and see. She picked up the winning scratch-off tickets and counted them. Not a penny more. Not a penny less. Exactly 1 million. I don't believe it. You must have counted wrong. Lucy's face turned pale as she snatched the scratch-off tickets and counted them again. The result was still the same. At that moment, Lucy's expression became extremely grim. And she said in disbelief, it really is 1 million. I spread my hands toward Lucy and said with a smile, your big diamond ring is very fine. And now it's mine. Lucy didn't move. Her lips pressed tightly together. Did you pull some trick? You watched Molly shuffle the cards and counted them yourself. What trick could I possibly pull? I said leisurely. Lucy, are you just a sore loser? Losing and then trying to throw dirt on us? Lucy, as expected, couldn't stand my provocation. Who says I can't afford to play? Lucy, with a cold expression, tossed the diamond ring onto the counter. Simon walked over after finishing his phone call and happened to see Lucy's ring ending up in my hand. Frowning, he questioned me without even asking for an explanation. Nancy, you've already taken a large sum of money from me. How could you even try to take the ring Lucy bought? Your greed truly disgusts me. I gently twirled the ring on my finger with my index finger. I didn't steal it. If you didn't steal it, did Lucy give it to you willingly? I smiled and said, you guessed it. You're just too clever. How is that possible? Then, seeing that Lucy didn't refute it, Simon suddenly realized that things were probably just as I had said. Lucy, what happened just now? I made a bet with Nancy and lost. When Lucy spoke to Simon, her tone was completely different from her earlier arrogance. Her eyes drooped slightly, giving her an innocent look. Seeing this, Simon felt heartbroken and confronted me. You're taking advantage of Lucy's innocence. He truly believes Lucy has a simple and pure nature. As for her willfulness, he sees it as genuine character. He once said that Lucy is like a rose with thorns, meant to live freely and boldly, and he would cherish her with all his heart. This is probably what they call love is blind. Molly listened and curled her lips. Lucy is still naive. With a mind like yours, I really don't know how you managed to grow the company so big. At this moment, his expression darkened, showing a hint of anger. Company matters are none of your concern. I became increasingly convinced that after I left the company, Simon's business had not been going well. Otherwise, given Simon's temperament, he wouldn't have gotten angry over what Molly said. Lucy was still counting on Simon to help her save face, but Simon's work phone rang again. He answered it, exchanged a few hurried words, and his expression changed slightly. He handed Lucy a bank card, telling her to buy whatever she liked. He then had to rush off to handle company matters, promising to accompany her on a proper shopping trip next time, and left in a hurry without even looking back. Things didn't go as Lucy had expected. Her face turned somewhat unpleasant, but she quickly regained her composure. she taunted. Where the money is, the love is. Nancy, when you were with Simon, you never got this kind of treatment. Did you? Molly sneered. Our Nancy is a multimillionaire. She doesn't care about the scraps Simon tosses her way. Lucy knew she couldn't win the argument. In a fit of anger, she got angry for a moment, then turned around and went shopping to vent her frustration. Molly and I found a quiet dessert shop in the mall and sat down. I'm someone with such bad luck. And I actually won the prize, Molly said. Still a bit emotional. Nancy, how did you do it? I bound myself to a simp system. The more I simp for you, the better your luck becomes and the richer you get. Molly suddenly understood. So, Simon's successful business venture is all thanks to you. I nodded. Does Simon know about this? He doesn't know. Simon has a strong sense of pride. So after careful consideration I decided not to tell him about this matter. Molly's face, for once, showed a hint of a smile. He let go of such a good yuan and instead got involved with Lucy. He'll regret it later. Molly found it strange again. With you, Simon could easily become a billionaire just by buying lottery tickets. Why does he still need to run a company to achieve financial freedom? Winning the lottery is a newcomer benefit for those I choose. Each person can only use it once. The specific content of the benefit is whatever amount of money I give to the chosen person. That person will win the same amount in the lottery with a limit of 1 million. I still remember when I first found the sim system. Simon also had this newcomer benefit. I didn't believe it would work. So I gave Simon $5. He went and bought a drink and ended up winning $5. At that time, I was filled with regret. Now that I think about it, there's nothing to regret. He's not worth it. Now that Molly has won $1 million prize, she returned that check to me. Nancy, thank you. Don't worry. I'm not someone who forgets a favor. From now on, all the money I earn through the sim system will go to you. Meeting her grateful gaze, I knew I had made the right choice this time. Next time, we'll split it evenly. No, that would be too unfair to you. After all, I didn't do anything, I said with a sincere tone. All right. If you consider me a friend, then let's happily settle this matter. Molly's eyes welled up with tears as she hugged me. Nancy, it's so wonderful to have a friend like you. You're wonderful, too. Just a couple of days later, after Molly's prize money was deposited, she took me to visit her mother. During this time, with my efforts, Molly had already earned $300,000 through the Lux system, and I received a share of $150,000. This includes, but is not limited to, Molly winning the grand prize at the company annual party. Gold bars worth 100,000 yuan. Scanning a QR code on a beverage bottle cap led to a two-person island vacation, which was cashed out for 20,000 in cash. As soon as the hospital room door was pushed open, I saw Aunt Linda lying on the bed. She had lost most of her hair, had become much thinner, and her expression was filled with worry and hardship. As soon as Aunt Linda saw Molly, she began to persuade her. Molly, my illness is incurable. Just take me back to our hometown. Don't trouble yourself with my medical expenses anymore. I don't want to burden you any longer. Molly told Aunt Linda that she had won the $1 million lottery. Aunt Linda didn't believe it at first. And even after Molly showed her the winning ticket, she remained skeptical. It wasn't until she saw the balance in Molly's account that she finally believed it. Her ashen face lit up with a renewed glow. Molly added, recently, I've been negotiating a big deal for the company. Once the deal is finalized, I'll get a 2 million yuan commission. A 2 million yuan commission. After the initial excitement, her aunt grew a bit worried. Such a huge deal. Are you sure you can close it smoothly? Molly glanced at me. Definitely. During this time, I've been wholeheartedly devoted to Molly. She was already highly capable at her job. And with the good luck I gave her, securing that order was almost a sure thing. Molly pushed me in front of Aunt Linda and said, Mom, this is my friend, Nancy. I know the hospital food isn't great. So for the next little while, she'll cook meals at home and bring them over for you. How can I trouble someone like that? I spoke up. Auntie, it's no trouble at all. I'm currently unemployed and just sitting around at home anyway. This is the result of my discussion with Molly on ordinary days. There's only so much I can do for Molly, but I can do a lot more for Aunt Linda. A simp doesn't just treat the person they're simping for well, they also treat their family well. This way, Molly's luck will also improve significantly. And securing that company project is a sure thing. After visiting Aunt Linda, I was about to leave when I unexpectedly saw someone at the hospital. It was Simon. Unlike his high-spirited self from some time ago, he was now sitting in a wheelchair with a thick cast on his leg, as if his leg was broken. As for his forehead, it was also wrapped in thick gauze. It seems a very serious accident happened to him. His head was slightly bowed with a somewhat dejected look. I froze. You should know. In the previous life, Simon was living just fine and didn't have such a serious accident. I quickly realized that after I stopped fawning over him, he lost the good luck that the system had once given him and could no longer avoid some misfortunes. Not far from him, Lucy stood by the window having just picked up his medicine and was on her way back. She saw me, narrowed her eyes, and quickly walked over to my side. Lucy looked at me mockingly. You must have found out about Simon's car accident and rushed over to see him, right? I knew it. You still can't get over him. Yes. I came specifically to see him, I said with some regret. I'm quite disappointed to see he's not dead. Lucy choked on her words, then continued. I know you're just saying that out of anger. You should just give up on Simon. He's already proposed to me, bought me an even bigger diamond ring than before, and purchased a large villa under my name. You see, the difference between love and no love is just that obvious. You were with him for so many years and he never gave you anything, did he? I smiled. Who said that? Didn't I use those company shares to exchange for tens of millions in assets from him? That's worth far more than the villa and diamond ring under your name. Lucy was speechless, her face showing a look of indignation. At some point, Simon wheeled his chair over to me. He looked calm and said gently to Lucy, Lucy, go sit over there for a while. I have a few words to say to Nancy. Lucy reluctantly agreed. After Lucy had walked away, Simon finally spoke in a low voice, his tone filled with disgust for me. Nancy, in this lifetime, I will marry Lucy, have children, and live happily in the sunlight. Don't even think about tearing us apart again. As soon as he said those words, I knew that Simon had also been reborn. I said, I'm curious. You gave all your money to me. So how did you afford to buy her a diamond ring and a big villa? Loans? Aren't you afraid you won't be able to pay it back? Simon's eyes were full of arrogance. I'm going to be the richest person in the future. I'll earn this small amount back sooner or later. Richest person. More like the most indebted person. I'd say. Me. How can you be so sure things will go according to your plan? Simon said with confidence. Now that I have memories of my past life, I can use them to seize opportunities in business and avoid the mistakes I made before. I believe I will live a more successful life than in my past life. He paused and continued. As for the little tricks you've been playing in the company lately, I can now handle them with ease. He thought that the problems the company had been facing recently were all caused by me. But he didn't realize that the company was bound to encounter various difficulties on its own. In my previous life, it was because of my presence that his company was fortunate enough to avoid disaster. That's why he was able to achieve entrepreneurial success so effortlessly. I sneered. I doubt it. In your previous life, you never had such a serious car accident. You might just kick the bucket before you even become the richest man. Simon looked displeased. That was an accident. I later found out that Simon had the car accident because in the middle of the night, Lucy called him and specifically asked for wontons from the northern part of the city. During that period, Simon had been overwhelmed with work due to frequent issues with his company's business. Because it was true love, he still went to buy the wontons for Lucy. As a result, he was driving while fatigued and got into a car accident. Serves him right. We ended up parting on bad terms. Molly came out of the ward just in time to see the scene. After Simon pushed the wheelchair further away, Molly leaned in close to me and whispered, Nancy, did you know that the biggest competitor for the big deal my project team has been negotiating recently is Simon? It suddenly occurred to me that in my previous life, Simon had signed a major deal around this time. And thanks to that deal, the company successfully went public. Simon thought that with his memories from his previous life, he could drive effortlessly. Little did he know, I had taken Molly's side. And luck would be on her side as well. I wonder how Simon will react when he realizes things aren't going as he planned. It's bound to be amusing. Ever since Aunt Linda fell ill, Molly's life has been very difficult. She has to work 3 jobs a day and also take care of her mother in the hospital with almost no time to rest. Now that her mother's medical expenses have been taken care of and her condition is gradually improving, she can finally catch her breath. The tension she had been holding on to for so long has finally eased. Molly invited me to go to the amusement park. They're setting off at the amusement park for New Year's Eve. I gladly agreed. When I was with Simon, he was always busy with company matters and never celebrated New Year's Eve with me. It's just an ordinary day. Nothing worth celebrating. It's all a marketing gimmick by businesses to get you to spend money. I thought Simon was too ambitious and lacked any romantic sensibility. Later, after he got together with Lucy, he specifically set aside a week to go with her to the Arctic to see the northern lights and celebrate the new year. Only then did I realize that Simon did have a romantic side. He just wasn't willing to direct it toward me. A wave of anger at being deceived swept over my mind. I later refused to let Simon and Lucy be together, using all sorts of methods to make their lives a complete mess. Now, after leaving Simon, I have someone to celebrate the new year with. Indeed, after leaving a toxic person, your own life becomes much better. Molly and I tried many amusement park rides. I grew up in an orphanage and my childhood was quite impoverished. I had a great time with those activities that many people might consider childish. The deep-seated regrets about my childhood were gradually healed. Before midnight, I counted down with everyone. 3, 2, 1. Fireworks bloomed overhead. Incredibly beautiful. Molly took a photo of me. In the picture, I was looking up at the fireworks with an especially radiant smile. Nancy, I hope you stay this happy forever. Okay. Let's spend New Year's Eve together next year. 2. No problem. It turns out that life is a long journey and men are not a necessity. Having sisters by your side is also quite nice. The fireworks faded, and the crowd gradually dispersed with everyone heading towards the exit. People were all squeezed together, everyone moving with difficulty. Not far away, a 3 or 4-year-old child being held by a middle-aged woman was crying his heart out. Mom. I want my mom. Mom got separated in the crowd. She told us to wait for her at the exit. The middle-aged woman patiently comforted him. Be good, and when we get out, Auntie will buy you your favorite lollipop. No. No. I want mommy. The middle-aged woman's tone was filled with helpless affection. You silly child. Why are you so clingy? Anyone who saw them would think she was the child's nanny. I casually glanced over, saw the child and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. I seem to have seen this child somewhere before. Nancy, what are you spacing out for? Keep moving forward. Okay. Molly's urging voice in my ear interrupted my train of thought. After walking a few steps, I stopped again. In a flash, I finally remembered where I had seen this child before. This child is the grandson of Lucas Green, the chairman of the Green Group. In my previous life, he had been kidnapped by Lucas Green's archrival. With the help of my good fortune, Simon found the child and successfully rescued him. Lucas Green was very grateful to Simon and gave him the major deal that Simon had been striving for in the business world. He also supported him at every turn. Simon's company was able to gradually expand its scale and grow bigger and bigger. It can be said that Lucas Green was a benefactor on Simon's entrepreneurial journey. Without him, Simon's career wouldn't have been so easily successful. And now, just as Lucas Green's grandson was kidnapped, I happened to witness it. Without hesitation, I grabbed Molly's hand and pushed through the crowd toward the middle-aged woman. As I pushed through, I didn't forget to explain. That child is Mr. Green's grandson. He's been kidnapped. We need to rescue him quickly. The middle-aged woman was very close to the exit. By the time we finally squeezed our way out of the exit, the middle-aged woman had already reached a white van. The door was opened by her accomplice, and just as she was about to get in, Molly sprinted over to her. The middle-aged woman was completely caught off guard, and Molly easily snatched the child away from her. The middle-aged woman and her accomplice saw this and immediately tried to snatch it back. Molly placed the child in my hands and subdued them in just a few moves. I was completely stunned when I saw it. I learned a little martial arts before. Molly comes from a single-parent family, and her mother, afraid she might be bullied at school, sends her to a martial arts school during winter and summer breaks to learn self-defense. Unexpectedly, it came in handy at this moment. Molly said to the onlookers, "This is a human trafficker." After some concerned citizens found out, they managed to get ropes from somewhere and tied the two of them up for her. Molly called the police shortly after. Before the police arrived, the child's family came looking for them. When they saw the child standing before them safe and sound, their eyes welled up with tears of emotion, and they repeatedly thanked Molly and me. Afterwards, Lucas Green, to thank Molly, signed the major contract she had been striving for, and she successfully received a 2 million yuan commission. More importantly, after learning that Molly's mother had a brain tumor, he specifically went abroad to invite a medical expert in this field to personally perform the surgery for her. As for Molly's company, knowing she was the key contributor, they proactively promoted her and gave her a raise. As for me, Lucas Green knew I lacked nothing, so he gifted me a Cloud Peak villa located halfway up the mountain in the southern part of the city. Cloud Top Villa was developed by the Green family a few years ago and sold out immediately upon its launch. Lucas Green kept 3 units for himself back then. The residents living there now are either wealthy or influential. Today, Cloud Top Villa can be described as a property that is in high demand, but rarely available on the market. Lucas Green also learned about the personal grudge between me and Simon. He is a man of deep loyalty and gratitude, and the person he is most thankful for is his childhood sweetheart, who stood by him through thick and thin, supporting his career wholeheartedly when he had nothing. He despises the behavior of men who, as soon as they become successful, abandon the person who has been by their side. He promised me that his company would never cooperate with someone like Simon, who has such poor moral character. If the right opportunity arises, he wouldn't mind letting Simon suffer a little. I can only say Lucas Green totally deserves to make a fortune. And Molly and I specifically went out for a meal to celebrate. Molly sighed with emotion. This past month has felt like a dream. If someone had told me a month ago that I wouldn't have to worry about my mom's medical bills, that her illness could be cured, that I'd become a little rich woman, and even get a promotion and a raise, I would have thought they were joking. I took a small sip of my wine. Things will only get better from here. When this project is over, let's go on a vacation abroad together. Okay? During this period, Molly has been busy and fulfilled with her work, while I've also been occupied completing my simping tasks. The system has set task quotas. I must simp for Molly 100 times every year. I only got paired with Molly at the end of the year, so to meet the task quota, I've been running around like crazy. We both really need a vacation to relieve our physical and mental exhaustion. After the meal, Molly went to the restroom, and I sat in my seat waiting for her to return. Not long after, a fierce voice sounded above my head. Nancy, why are you so vicious? Do you only feel happy when you see me hit rock bottom? I looked up at Simon. It had been some time since we last met, and Simon no longer had the high spirits he once did. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked utterly exhausted. Lately, his company had been facing one problem after another. Even with memories of his past life, he could only manage to cope. After all, in his previous life, because I was there, he never experienced any hardships. Simon hoped that after he saved Lucas Green's grandson, he would gain Lucas Green's support and turn his situation around in one move. He had calculated the date and made full preparations to go to the place where Lucas Green's grandson had been kidnapped and imprisoned in his previous life, only to find the house completely empty. Upon further inquiry, Lucas Green's grandson was indeed kidnapped, but within less than 10 minutes, Molly and I rescued him. Simon's plan fell through. Now, the company is facing both internal and external troubles, and he is utterly devastated. So, he came to confront me, full of rage. I glanced at him and said nonchalantly, "Oh, isn't this the future richest man? It's only been a few days. How did you end up like this?" Simon's face turned ashen. "Isn't this all you're doing? Lucas Green is someone who repays kindness. Since you've done him a favor, he'll definitely agree to your request. Hurry up and tell Lucas Green to have his company cooperate with mine." Simon, do I have the word idiot written on my forehead? After how you treated me in our past life, do you really think I'd help you unconditionally? Simon continued on his own. "I know you still can't forget me. That's why you're always opposing me, trying to get my attention and win me back. But I'm with Lucy now, and there's no way I can be with you. However, if you help me, I can give you 2% of the company's shares. You know, the bigger my company grows in the future, the more valuable those shares will become." I looked at him with a rather curious gaze. In my past life, how did I not realize that Simon was so thick-skinned? I calmly said, "It's not impossible for me to help you. However, you must agree to one condition." Simon pressed. "What condition?" "Go out now, turn right, and head to the Cross River Bridge. Jump off. As long as you die, I will bring your company back to life." Simon's face turned pale with anger. Are you messing with me? It took you this long to realize? I sneered. Simon, where do you get the confidence to think I would still be devoted to someone who betrayed me in my past life and caused my death? You really overestimate yourself. Simon fumed angrily. If it weren't for your refusal to divorce me and all the trouble you caused, making Lucy and me despised by everyone, why would I have sent someone to harm you? You're so vicious. You're not even worth one of Lucy's toes. You deserve my betrayal, I said calmly. Simon, this pathetic, furious look of yours is truly unbecoming. Get out of my sight now. Just seeing you brings me bad luck. Simon, who was used to being admired in his past life, couldn't stand my mockery. He threw down the words. Fine. I'll go. Don't think that without Lucas Green's help or your support, I can't do anything right. I'm the future richest man. I'll overcome this current predicament and reach the heights of my past life. No. I'll stand even higher than before. And when that time comes, you'll be the one regretting it. Simon is gone. His leg hadn't fully healed yet, and he walked with a noticeable limp. Somehow, it made me quite happy. After using the restroom, Molly went to settle the bill, and happened to witness the scene where Simon and I parted on bad terms. What is he here for? Here to act crazy. Don't mind him. Not even 2 days later, Simon sent me a message. Frank is willing to help me. The company is saved. Not everyone is as cold-blooded, selfish, and heartless as you. I will definitely lead the company out of this predicament and make it bigger and stronger. I was a bit surprised that Frank was willing to help him. Frank is someone who values profit highly. Wherever there's money to be made, he'll dig into it. In his previous life, Frank saw that Simon's business was thriving, and his investment vision was particularly sharp. Every move he made was a surefire success. So, Frank took the initiative to befriend Simon, trying to collaborate with him and get a share of the business. Over time, the two became good friends. When Simon and Lucy were together, Frank even helped cover it up for him later. I exposed Simon's scandal and the company's stock plummeted. As a result, Frank's business was also somewhat affected. He sneered at me. Someone as outstanding as Simon is not someone an ordinary woman like you deserves. You're too greedy. You should divorce Simon as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will pay a heavy price. I suspect that my death in a car accident in my previous life was also related to Frank. And now, given Frank's nature of never acting without personal gain, he looks down on Simon. I have a feeling that Frank isn't genuinely helping him, but has ulterior motives. I didn't reply to Simon's message. Simon's current temperament is such that the more you engage with him, the more he acts up. So, I just blocked him directly. Stay away from toxic people, and your own life will get better and better. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed, and Linda had surgery. The operation was very successful, and she recovered well, leaving the hospital smoothly. The project Molly was responsible for has also come to a close. She took her annual leave and flew abroad with me for a vacation. We went to a tropical country. Back home, it was still experiencing a late spring chill and was quite cold. While it was very warm over there, Molly and I lay on the beach chairs, lazily basking in the sun, feeling utterly content. We both sighed in unison. It's truly wonderful to be alive. However, there are always some flies that disturb my peaceful moments at the most inopportune times. My phone on the table started vibrating. Someone called. It was an unfamiliar domestic number. I thought it was some kind of sales call and hung up without a second thought. Not long after, that number called again. I realized that this call was meant for me. I picked up the phone, and a familiar voice came through from the other end. Don't hang up. It's Simon. So, it's him. I raised an eyebrow. What's up? Simon was emotionally agitated and spoke with indignation. Nancy, Frank has betrayed me. We were so close in our past life, and I really misjudged him. I've heard some things about Simon these days. Frank never intended to help Simon. He was after the most crucial core technology of his company. Simon had a smooth and successful life in his past life, because he never experienced any setbacks. He is not very scheming and had no guard up against his good friend Frank from his past life. Frank smoothly took away the most important core technology of his company, leaving behind a complete mess, and then just walked away without a care. At the moment, Simon's company is in complete disarray and is on the verge of collapse. What exactly are you trying to say? Simon was silent for a moment before speaking with a strained tone. Nancy, My company's funding chain has broken. If no one injects funds soon, I'll go bankrupt. Right now, you're the only one who can help me. As a thank you, I can give you half of the company's shares. I never expected Simon to be so thick-skinned. Or perhaps he's just too narcissistic. Still thinking I have lingering feelings for him. I was about to hang up and block him when Molly, who had been listening in, leaned over and said in exasperation, "Oh, please. With your failing company drowning in debt, who would even want it?" Simon got worked up and retorted, "What do you know? Someday, it will become one of the top companies in the country. You're talking nonsense. Don't you realize that without Nancy, you're nothing? You're just trash who got lucky to meet Nancy, and yet you didn't cherish her. It serves you right that you've ended up like this." "What do you mean by that?" I hung up the phone and immediately blocked the number. "Molly, let's just enjoy our vacation. Don't pay attention to such a rotten person. It will only ruin our mood." Molly nodded in agreement, then added with a smile, "But honestly, seeing Simon doing so poorly now gives me a bit of satisfaction." The corners of my lips curled up slightly. Who doesn't feel the same way? Lucy was initially willing to be with Simon basically because of his money. Do you think Lucy will still stay with him now that Simon has fallen on hard times? I hope they can stay together. Those two scumbags deserve to be stuck with each other forever. Happy times always pass by in the blink of an eye. And the holiday ended. And Lucy and I boarded the flight back home. After the plane landed, I was waiting for my luggage. Molly, who was playing on her phone nearby, suddenly exclaimed, "Holy crap." I turned to look at her. "What's wrong?" Molly shoved the phone into my hand. "See for yourself. Simon's been arrested." What Molly showed me was a news article. And the first thing that caught my eye was a photo of Simon being arrested. His hair was a mess. As if it hadn't been washed for days. His clothes were stained with blood. And he was wearing handcuffs. Facing the camera, he looked utterly dejected. His expression completely numb. According to the news report, Simon's company went bankrupt and he unexpectedly discovered that his girlfriend Lucy had hooked up with Frank, who had previously betrayed him. He went to confront these two individuals. One called him useless, a good-for-nothing. The other called him stupid, saying he deserved to be deceived. Simon, provoked, directly stabbed Lucy and Frank with a knife. Lucy was stabbed to death on the spot. As for Frank, in order to escape, he jumped directly from the 7th floor. He miraculously survived but suffered multiple fractures all over his body, became a vegetable, and is unlikely to wake up. This life of his is over. Molly said, "It's a good thing you broke up with Simon. He's really terrifying. How could he do something like murder?" "She doesn't know that I was also killed once by Simon," I said calmly. "The law will punish him this time. He absolutely cannot get away with it like he did in his previous life. After hiring someone to kill me, Simon was ultimately sentenced to death. While in prison, he once requested to see me. I refused. I could already guess what he wanted to say. Nothing more than nonsense like admitting he was wrong, that he shouldn't have abandoned me for Lucy, and so on. I don't need his repentance in this lifetime. I just need him to die." 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye and Molly has already left her previous company and started a new one with me. With the experience and connections we've accumulated over the years, as well as the good luck brought to Molly by the SIM system, we have managed the company very well. The two of us have essentially achieved financial freedom over the years. We have engaged in a lot of charitable work, such as helping girls who couldn't attend school to get an education and assisting women who suffered from domestic violence to regain their freedom. On New Year's Eve, Molly and I were in the kitchen helping Aunt Linda with the preparations. Molly and I are as close as sisters and we even bought houses right across from each other. Aunt Linda was very grateful that I reached out to help Molly during her most difficult time and she has always cared for me in daily life. As we spent more time together, she began to regard me as her own daughter. For the past few years, we have spent every New Year's Eve together. For the first time in a long while, I felt the warmth of a family. After dinner, Molly and I went to the lake to watch the fireworks. There were also a few elderly ladies chatting and laughing as they enjoyed the fireworks. Clearly lifelong best friends who had known each other for decades. Molly suddenly turned to me and said seriously, "When we're old, I hope we'll still be as close as they are." I smiled and replied, "Of course. Good sisters for a lifetime." After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see one wild night. I ended up pregnant with twins. But people mocked me, saying I used underhanded means to steal my sister's man because of these twins. Even if the crown prince of the capital's elite doesn't marry me, he can never cut ties with me for the rest of his life. Yet, I secretly ran away. I have been running for 20 years. Raising 2 sons through hardship and toil. One attends a top-tier university. The other is a piano prodigy. When they learned their father is a business tycoon, they insisted on recognizing him as their father. Despite my objections, I tried to stop them multiple times, but they even spoke harshly to me. The eldest son said with a face full of disgust, "No wonder father left you. You are a woman more vicious than a snake. Back then, you insisted on breaking me and Bella apart, causing her tragic death. I've long wanted to settle this score with you." The youngest son said with eyes full of hatred, "I never liked the piano at all. Just because you liked it, you forced me to learn it. And I've been learning for 18 years. Do you know how much pain I've endured? I've wanted to smash the piano every single moment. What gives you the right to control my freedom?" Not long after they acknowledged their father, I was kidnapped. And the kidnappers demanded a ransom of 1 million. I thought they would save me. After all, I gave birth to them and raised them. But the result I waited for was death by drowning in a pond. They refused to pay the ransom. After death, my soul returned to my homeland. I saw with my own eyes them bidding on a $2 million jade bracelet and giving it to my sister. They even recognized my sister as their godmother. Overwhelming hatred and resentment prevented me from ascending to heaven. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day they wanted to recognize me as their father. This time, I didn't refuse, but instead said, "Calculate how much money I've spent on you all these years and have your father pay it back in one lump sum. From now on, we sever the mother-child relationship. Why do you always try to tie us to your side? We are independent individuals, not your appendages. We don't fall for emotional blackmail." I mean it. I lifted my head and looked directly at my eldest son, who stood 1.8 m tall, wore glasses, and appeared refined, yet was glaring at me with a venomous expression. The younger son sneered, "You've controlled us for so long. And it turns out it's all for money. Dad said you were greedy, but we didn't believe him. We thought you took us away from the James family because you had no other choice. Now it seems you hid us just to maximize your own benefits." I didn't speak back. Then, when the James family found out I was pregnant, they were convinced I was scheming behind the scenes, trying to use the child to elevate my status and climb the social ladder overnight. They forced me to abort the child, but the doctor said my body couldn't handle it. If I lost this pregnancy, I might never be able to conceive again. I was terrified. I went to beg Eric, knelt down to him, hoping he would speak the truth, that the absurdity of that night wasn't my fault alone, but the fault of those who manipulated things behind the scenes. Eric only said 2 words: "Get rid of it." I was escorted to the hospital by 2 bodyguards. When it was my turn to enter the operating room, a fire broke out on the floor, causing chaos everywhere, and I took the chance to escape later. A fire killed more than 10 people, becoming the biggest news of that year. It is often said that a son cannot empathize with his mother, and I once mocked this statement harshly in my previous life. I could not forgive James' family for what they did to me and refused to let them acknowledge their father. They completely disregarded my feelings and insisted on recognizing him as their father on their birthday. When I gave birth to them, it was in a small clinic in a remote area. I almost had a difficult delivery, and if it hadn't been for an old doctor present, all 3 of us would have died. Not to mention later when I was kidnapped. A ransom of 1 million. This amount of money is not a big deal for either of them. The eldest son attends a top-tier university, and with my help, he opened a studio with an annual income of 800,000 to 900,000. My youngest son earns hundreds of thousands for just one performance. As his manager, to maintain his quality, I only allow him to perform 5 times a year. I work tirelessly to raise them into successful individuals. In the end, every one of them resents me to the core. To avoid any further involvement with them, I directly set a price 3 million per person. The eldest son, seeing that I was serious, retorted, "Are you short on money?" With a cold expression, I pulled out 2 dissonant agreements from a bag beside me. "I've already signed them. Once the money is in place, you can sign your names. From then on, whatever you do has nothing to do with me. I am no longer your mother." The youngest son's expression of disgust slowly faded as he exchanged a glance with his elder brother. Neither of them had any idea what I was about to do. After all, I had given them my whole heart and soul. There was no one else in this world who treated them as well as I did. They knew it all too well. Yet, while they enjoyed everything I did for them, they still wanted more. Actually, I'm not really refusing to let them acknowledge their father. It's because I found out something. Eric had a son with my sister. But that child is in very poor health with kidney problems and even had heart bypass surgery at a young age. If it weren't for the James family's wealth and connections, that child would never have survived. So, I'm worried they might try to use my child for organ transplants for that child. In fact, shortly after my death, my youngest son met with misfortune in an accident. His hands were broken and all the tendons in his hands were severed. The once piano prodigy lost his most precious hands. He had thought he could forge a second path in life, such as starting a business. But he didn't have the ability and quickly squandered all the money he had. His so-called father, after he became useless, completely neglected him and didn't even allow him to attend family gatherings. Perhaps unable to accept reality, he began to degenerate and eventually became a homeless man. His godmother, who is also my sister Susan, took the opportunity to end his life thinking about how they tried to please by calling her godmother and giving her priceless jewelry. Yet they were unwilling to pay the ransom for me. I don't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for his fate. You deserve it. The eldest son was the first to respond. Since you've said so, and the severance letter is ready, we'll do as you wish. After saying that, the eldest son started operating on his phone. Shortly after, my phone showed a notification of receiving 1.5 million yuan, which was likely all his income from his college years. The initial funding for his studio was provided by me, and I helped finalize some of his plans. Yet I never took a single penny from his studio. This 1.5 million was really not taken with any satisfaction. The remaining 1.5 million, I will give it to you within this month. Not a cent less. After saying that, he took one copy of the severance letter, turned around, and left. The younger son put on a troubled and sighing expression, asking me why I had to be so decisive. What good would cutting off our mother-son relationship bring? And who would take care of me when I grow old? This kind of problem sounds ridiculous. In my past life, when I was drowned, they were still laughing and calling the person who harmed me godmother, rushing to give her expensive bracelets. In this life, I naturally need to open my eyes. Since they can't empathize with me, I might as well let go of them all. I didn't speak. He got angry, took out his phone, and transferred me 3 million. After the money was received, he immediately signed his name. I no longer have to be constrained by you. I'm giving back all the money I earned from playing the piano. From now on, I am myself. No longer the so-called piano prince. I despise that title. And I despise the piano even more. Holding the severance document, he walked away without looking back. After the two of them left, I got up to pack their things. 3 hours later, I had completely cleaned away all traces of their existence. I had just sat down, exhausted, when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see 2 unexpected visitors. My parents. After 20 years apart, the first thing Dad did was slap me. I dodged out of the way, and Mom quickly stopped Dad, saying his blood pressure was high and he shouldn't get angry. It wasn't good for his health. As she said this, Mom glared at me fiercely with her eyes, telling me to kneel down. They still despise me so much. When you think about it, I'm quite a failure as a person. I once desperately tried to please my parents, begging them to share a little love with me, but their hearts and eyes were filled only with Susan. They think my sister is kind and gentle, while I am jealous and petty. They don't love me. After I escaped from the hospital, I thought times about asking them for help, but I overheard them wishing I had died in that fire, so I wouldn't embarrass them further by competing with my own sister for a man. At that moment, I finally gave up hope. Fortunately, my grandfather left me some money. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have the means to survive. After my twin sons were born, I never showed favoritism, fearing they would experience the same life Susan and I had. But what did I get in return? They stood by and watched me die without lifting a finger. In my previous life, I was an utter and complete failure. Seeing me standing still with an expressionless face that sent chills down one's spine, my mother frowned and said, "How dare you still live? Back then, you fought with your sister over a man. And now you're preventing your 2 sons from acknowledging their father. Your sister doesn't even mind your sons recognizing the eldest son of the James family. So what right do you have to stop them? Everyone says I was competing with Susan for a man. But in reality, Susan and Eric were never actually together. At least not before I left. However, Susan often acted very close to Eric in public, which led people to mistakenly believe they were a couple. Later, she spread rumors herself, claiming that she and Eric were childhood sweethearts who had been together for many years. But Eric never stepped forward to clarify the situation, which gave Susan the opportunity to continue. When a lie is repeated often enough, it becomes accepted as the truth. So, when the media exposed that Eric and I had spent the night in a hotel, and 2 months later I was photographed at the hospital for a pregnancy checkup, I was met with overwhelming abuse. Lincoln's parents knew the inside story, but a few tears from Susan softened their hearts. They gave me an ultimatum: if I didn't abort the baby, they would disown me as their daughter. After I died, I didn't even get a single tear from them. Instead, I was met with resentment. I've already cut ties with them as their child. From now on, whatever they do has nothing to do with me. And you all should stay out of my sight, so you don't dirty my eyes. Lincoln's father gritted his teeth in anger. Is this how you treat your own parents? I really raised an ungrateful wretch. It's just as well that she died. A disgrace like her was useless alive anyway. With her gone, we can finally have some peace and quiet. That's a good thing. I calmly repeated the 2 sentences I had heard back then, both spoken by them. For a moment, Lincoln's parents were stunned. They never expected that I had heard those words, instantly tearing away the decent facade they maintained as parents. Those were just words said in anger. How could you take them seriously, and remember them for so many years? Why do you hold such a grudge? Lincoln's father began to turn the tables. Why don't you just die? You 2 old fools. So biased and unreasonable? The old who refuse to die are nothing but thieves. Alive and useless. If you die, at least I'll have some peace and quiet. That would be just fine. I can now calmly return every word and every action they've ever directed at me right back to them. If the knife doesn't cut them, they'll never understand the pain. Sure enough, the next second, both of them started cursing loudly. You poisonous woman. One day you'll be hit by a car and struck by lightning. You're too vicious. How can you say such things? You're nothing but a venomous snake. Only when you're gone will our world be at peace, and your sister will be happy. Listen. That's the sound of a knife plunging into their bodies. Disgusting and ugly. So, you also find these words extremely harsh. How did you manage to say them on the day I died? I retorted. You call me cruel and vicious, but the truly malicious ones are you. The only person in this world worth my care was Grandpa. It's a pity he passed away so early. Otherwise, I would never have returned to your home, endured your insults and contempt, and struggled to win your favor. Halfway through speaking, I felt utterly bored. After all these years, am I still waiting for an apology from them? They probably don't think they did anything wrong. Maybe they're still waiting for me to go back and be their dog. Enough with all this nonsense. Since you've already cut ties with your 2 grandsons, there's nothing left for us to say. From now on, don't show up in front of us again. And don't bother your sister. Everything the James family has now belongs to your sister and her children. Don't even think about coveting what isn't yours. I didn't respond and slammed the door shut with all my strength. Insults came from outside the door once again. After a while, the insults outside the door faded away as they left. Half a month later, the eldest son sent 1.5 million. Along with it came a message. No matter what you did give birth to and raise us, when you grow old, we will still take care of you. I'm not moved at all. I casually blocked him. If I hadn't died so tragically in my previous life, I wouldn't have been so ruthless. I just want to stay as far away from them as possible. The farther the better. Yet, someone came knocking at my door. Susan actually brought her son along to see me. This was completely unexpected. Now, Mrs. James. She was adorned in luxury from head to toe, with even a single strand of hair exuding refinement. Yet, her eyes no longer held the confidence and arrogance of the past. No. She is more like a bald chicken adorned with peacock feathers. No matter how splendid her exterior, it cannot conceal the panic and lack of confidence within her. She spoke to me in a condescending tone. You actually dare to sever ties with your 2 sons. What exactly are you scheming? I warn you, don't even think about using those 2 bastards to step into the James family. You are not worthy. The young man beside her appeared to be about 15 or 16 years old. His complexion was extremely pale and he was small in stature. He spoke gently, and seeing that Susan's words were harsh, he tried to mediate by saying a few words of comfort. Susan suddenly lashed out, yelling at her son. Can't you be more assertive? Those two bastards are about to step all over you and you're still acting half dead. The young man seemed long accustomed to Susan's yelling at him and silently lowered his head. If you came here to scold your son in my house, you can get out right now, I said irritably. Susan sneered coldly. What are you so proud of? Do you really think those two bastards can help you get into the James family? Don't dream. After saying that, she shot me a glare and left. I thought she came to make threats. But something happened in the afternoon. The police showed up accusing me of attempted murder and asking me to cooperate with the investigation. I was completely confused. It wasn't until I went to the police station that I found out Susan's son, Jack, had been hospitalized. The reason was Jack was pushed from behind while going down the stairs, causing him to fall and roll down. The incident triggered his heart condition and he is now in the ICU fighting for his life. Susan called the police and insisted that I was the one who pushed her son from behind. When the police took me to the hospital, Susan was wailing and crying hysterically outside the emergency room. When she saw me arrive, she rushed over and tried to hit me, but I didn't back down either. I immediately raised my foot and kicked back. The police quickly stepped in to stop me and separated the two of us. Lincoln's parents were also present, their expressions looking as if they wanted to devour me alive. I know you hate me and you can do anything to me, but you cannot harm my son. He is my heart and soul. Without him, I would rather die. Susan was crying loudly. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Eric and the twins happened to arrive just then, and seeing my action, the twins immediately furrowed their brows, their faces full of disapproval. 20 years later, seeing Eric again, not only had he not aged, but he had become even more charming. I had once admired him, but not forever. The moment he had his bodyguards escort me to the hospital, I lost all feelings for this man. Why are you doing this? He questioned me. I wiped the smile off my face and retorted. What did I do? Eric thought I was toying with him. He grabbed my wrist and said coldly, You really have no regard for your own life. Do you even know what the law is? Do you have any respect for the police? The police, hearing my words, immediately stepped forward to separate us. Susan cried to Eric. She harmed my son like this, surely to pave the way for her two sons. If my son dies, her two sons can rightfully become the legitimate heirs of the James family and she can smoothly step into the James family. How could you be so cruel? My son is weak and poses no threat to the plans of her and her two sons. She tearfully accused me of a pile of crimes. The eldest son anxiously said, Dad, Mom is definitely not that kind of person. She might be a bit cold at times, but she would never do something to harm others. I can assure you of that. The younger son glanced at me, hesitated for a moment and asked, Mom, be honest. Does this matter have anything to do with you? You forced us to sign the dissolution agreement. You took the money and now you're still causing trouble for us. What exactly are you trying to do? At that moment, the doctor came out of the emergency room with a serious expression and said that the patient was out of danger, but tonight was critical. If he made it through the night, he would be fine and could be transferred to a regular ward. If not, we needed to be mentally prepared. Susan wailed even louder as if her son had already died. I said calmly, Are you crying so hard because your son didn't die and your plan failed? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked, especially Lincoln's parents, who, upon realizing what was happening, rushed over to attack me. Eric, being a smart man, immediately questioned the police. This lady is not a suspect. The people at her door is equipped with a visual monitor, which proves she never left her home. Although the hallway mentioned by Mrs. James has no surveillance, the building opposite has cameras that captured Mrs. James making a pushing motion. So, Ms. Susan, please come with us. The police are here to arrest Susan. The appearance of the twins must have provoked Susan. She didn't even consider the details and recklessly brought her son to my doorstep, eager to pin a crime on me. She looks down on her son, and judging by his condition, he probably won't live much longer. So, she wants to use her son to convict me, achieving her plan to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. The twins would be forever shamed for having a murderer like me as their mother. James's family might not even acknowledge them. and I would go to jail. She was certain there were no surveillance cameras in the hallway. As long as she insisted it was me. And then used a bit of her connections. She could completely pin it on me. But she overlooked one thing. There is an inconspicuous video monitor at the entrance of my home. Just that surveillance footage alone can prove that I never even left my doorstep. So, I'm not even a suspect. Lincoln's parents quickly stepped forward and shielded Susan in their arms. Lincoln's mother said to the police, "You must have made a mistake. Our Susan is very kind. How could she possibly do such a thing?" Lincoln's father turned to me and said fiercely, "You're trying to frame your sister again. You vicious woman. Why don't you just die?" I glared at him coldly. "You're the one who deserves to die." Seeing that I wouldn't back down and that my attitude toward them was extremely hostile, Lincoln's parents found themselves at a loss. They could only glare at me menacingly, trying to intimidate me with their eyes. Eric's face darkened considerably. Susan quickly stepped forward, clinging to his arm, and tearfully accused me of slandering her. The police stepped forward and took her away. From beginning to end, Eric didn't say a word, but it was clear he was furious. The farce was over and it was time for me to leave at that moment. The younger son came up to me and apologized, saying he had misunderstood me. I ignored him and kept walking. Eric quickly stepped forward, grabbing my wrist firmly. "I have something to say to you." His tone was always filled with command, but I wasn't having any of it. I forcefully shook off his hand and asked with disgust in my eyes, "Do your two sons know the reason you brought them back to the James family?" Eric narrowed his eyes, looking at me with a dangerous gaze. "The kidney of the eldest son. The heart of the youngest son. You took them all to match with your precious son. I want to ask, was it successful?" As soon as I said this, both sons were shocked. The eldest son, with a look of disbelief, asked Eric, "Dad, is what Mom said true or false?" The youngest son was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Eric didn't answer him but instead looked down at me. "They say a mother becomes strong for her children. I thought for sure you would go back to James' house with your two sons. I never expected you to cut ties with them. Do you hate me that much, Mr. James?" Back then, in order to get rid of these two children, your family and the Lincoln family joined forces to pressure me. When I begged you for help, what did you say? Get rid of them. It was you who sent bodyguards to escort me to the hospital to have the abortion. If it weren't for that fire, these two would have been long dead. The twin sons already knew about these events, but hearing me speak of them to the person involved for the first time still moved them deeply. Now you want the children but only for their organs. Do as you please, but I suppose you'll keep one alive. After all, if both die, it won't benefit you. All these years have passed and you've only managed to have one child. It's clear your health isn't what it used to be. Before Eric could speak, I turned and walked away. My two sons followed me to the hospital entrance. The eldest son spoke first. "Mom, I'm sorry." Before he could finish his sentence, a heavily pregnant woman in the distance caught his attention. Bella. The white moonlight he had always yearned for. Sure enough, the next second he rushed over. He grabbed Bella's hands excitedly, his face full of surprise as he asked her, "Bella, you're still alive?" Upon seeing him, Bella burst into tears and hugged him tightly. "Brother, I've had such a hard life these years. My parents sold me to an old man to be his wife. I didn't want to burden you, so I had to lie and say something happened to me. But the truth is, I couldn't bear to leave you. Will you take me away? With you now." When Bella's 6 or 7-month pregnant belly pressed against the eldest son, he suddenly realized that his white moonlight was pregnant and with an older man's child. As he struggled slightly, Bella's pitiful appearance made him willing to wear this green hat. Just as he was about to speak, an older man rushed over and punched the eldest son. "Who the hell are you? How dare you hold my woman?" Looking for a fight, the eldest son thought the older man had bullied Bella, and the two ended up fighting right on the street, quickly drawing the attention of the police. The youngest son, seeing that I hadn't intervened from start to finish and instead stood by watching the scene, asked me in confusion, "Aren't you going to stop your brother?" I sneered mockingly. "I'm just a stranger. Why should I stop him? What good would it do me?" As I was leaving, the eldest son was being escorted into the police car. He glanced back at me as if hoping I would bail him out. He is an impulsive person. To help him learn to stay calm, I consulted many teachers and psychological experts. His gentle and quiet demeanor was taught at a cost. It wasn't his inherent nature. Now, whatever he does, it's none of my business. That night, my youngest son called me. He knew I had blocked him, so he called from a different number. He just kept talking on and on. Brother was deceived. That woman is nothing like the pitiful person she claimed to be. She willingly became that old man's mistress and even gambled away her parents' house. Back then, she faked her death and left brother because she thought he was still studying and too poor to support her. Mom, you were right. That woman is no good. Brother is really upset now. He's drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Can you come and check on him? Mom, I'm sorry. I hung up the phone. I felt absolutely nothing about his words back then. I wasn't trying to break up my eldest son and Bella. I just felt they still had too many possibilities ahead and wanted them to be better prepared for the future. Just this one sentence made my eldest son hold a grudge against me for so many years, convinced that I tore them apart. All that I've done for him can't compare to one word from an outsider. It's truly pathetic. 2 days later, Susan was released. Her son woke up, and upon hearing the news, he seemed to be in a daze, not saying a word and relying entirely on liquid food. It was clear that he knew who had pushed him, and now he was completely devastated. Eric genuinely loved his son. Seeing him in such a poor state, he sent him to Australia without allowing Susan to accompany him. He even gave the order that, without his permission, Susan would never be allowed to see Jack again. It was only later that I found out Jack wasn't Susan's biological son. 3 days after my death was my birthday. Eric got drunk at a bar and was targeted by a woman. That woman successfully became pregnant with Eric's child. But she died soon after, killed by a car. The child in her womb was cut out. Surprisingly, it was Susan who delivered the baby. Her explanation was she happened to be at the scene of the accident. After that, her relationship with Eric grew closer and closer, and they ended up together. Although she is referred to as Mrs. James, they never actually registered their marriage. But Eric never refuted her public title, which could be seen as tacit approval. I obtained this information by hiring a private detective, but I can find out obviously it was Eric who released it. Otherwise, who could uncover the secret history of James's family? A week later, Lincoln's parents came to me. They were no longer arrogant, but begged me to help Susan. Susan was kicked out of the James family, and now she spends all day at the Lincoln family's house crying and cursing, saying I ruined her life. I directly kicked them out. Lincoln's parents genuinely love Susan. For her sake, they knelt down to me. I really hate this kind of behavior. Even if they are the most biased and dislike me the most, I still despise them kneeling to me. This feeling is as if it's cutting my life short and insulting my character. If you like kneeling, then kneel forever. But I understand even more clearly that one act of indulgence will lead to repeated indulgence. I absolutely will not let them hurt me again. So, I won't give them a single chance for Susan's sake. They were quite stubborn, kneeling at my doorstep for half the afternoon. When the neighbor came back and saw the scene, they quickly asked me what had happened. Before I could speak, they twisted the facts, accusing me of framing my own sister and claiming they were begging me to let her go for the sake of family harmony. They specifically pointed out their identities, my biological parents. The neighbors did not react in the way they had hoped. Instead, they called the police to report harassment. Before the police arrived, the neighbor was still lecturing me. You can't be too kind-hearted. We've been neighbors for 20 years. And I know your character better than anyone. Back then, you risked your life climbing into my house to save my grandfather. And you even donated blood for the baby downstairs. You may seem cold on the surface, but your character is truly exceptional. If they were really good parents, why would they kneel to you and bring misfortune upon your life? Lincoln's parents were persuaded to leave by the police. Before leaving, Lincoln's father cursed me. The way you treat us today, your children will treat you the same way tomorrow. This is karma. No. In this life, I live only for myself. I don't believe in karma. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. A life without anyone bothering you is just great. As the new year approached, I made plans with a few friends to go on a trip to Sonia. But the day before we were supposed to leave, something happened to me. I was kidnapped this time. The kidnappers turned out to be Susan and her lackeys. She trapped me in a fishing net and set up a device. If 50 million isn't obtained within 24 hours, the device will cut the net's rope, causing me to fall into the river and drown. You've never been better than me in anything your whole life. How could you catch Eric's attention and even get pregnant with his child? If I can't become Mrs. James, Don't even think about it. Looking at her distorted face, I asked her about what happened back then. It was you pulling the strings behind the scenes, wasn't it? You wanted to climb the ladder. So, you resorted to those dirty tricks. But you never expected me to show up and for Eric to take me away, ruining your plans. Susan admitted it. Not only that, she confessed to something else. The hospital fire back then. She was the one who started it. She has over a dozen lives on her hands. Yet, she's been living so brazenly all these years. Hearing her say those words, I knew I wouldn't survive. She not only wants the ransom, but also my life. There are only 30 minutes left until the device activates. Susan had already left with her people. She never intended to let me go. As time passed, watching the waves turn beneath my feet, a single large wave could sweep a person into the river, turning them into fish food. ****. The device was activated ahead of schedule. As the rope was being cut faster and faster, I began to panic. It wasn't until I fell into the river that I calmed down. What a waste of effort. I'm going to die again. When I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital. I didn't die. According to the nurse, a mysterious person had brought me to the hospital. By the time I was discharged, several major events had deeply shocked me. My youngest son had his hands crippled, one kidney removed, and was barely clinging to life in the hospital. Eric was in a major car accident with his lower body crushed. He will likely spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. The Lincoln family had it even worse. Their house was burned down. But everyone is safe. Susan has been detained by the police. News of her arson and murder is spreading everywhere. And the police station is now surrounded by people demanding the death penalty for her. So many unexpected major events happened in a row that I no longer had time to worry about my minor injuries. I rushed over to see what was going on. On the way, I received a call from an unknown number. As soon as he spoke, I knew who it was. My youngest son. But I had just received a call from the nurse saying my youngest son was in the ICU. So it was impossible for him to be calling me. Who is this person? Mom. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. It's all my fault for being disobedient and causing your death. In this lifetime, no one will ever harm you. After saying this, the call ended. When I tried calling back, the number had already been deactivated. I panicked and rushed to the hospital, only to see my eldest son standing in front of the ICU ward, his face full of confusion and sorrow. Mom, both Dad and my younger brother are in trouble. When you were kidnapped, we didn't mean to not come and save you. Through the glass window, looking at people inside who were suffering a fate worse than death, I actually felt a little sad. Though not much. But right now, the most important thing is to find that mysterious person. That search lasted a whole year. By that year, everything had settled. Susan was sentenced to death. The Lincoln parents were visited daily by the families of the dozen or so victims, making their lives miserable. They came to me for help, but I ignored them. In the end, they had no choice but to move back to the countryside. Eric lost both of his legs, and even a certain part of his body was crushed. He will never be able to have children in this lifetime. James's family began to treasure the twins, but the twins refused to return to the James household. After his younger son's hands were ruined, he became deeply depressed and eventually moved into a nursing home. The eldest son started his own business. Strangely enough, it was as if he had divine help. He managed to establish a fairly large company within just a year. At this rate, surpassing the James family's corporation is only a matter of time. And clearly, he was a failure in his previous life. Until I met the mysterious person by the sea. It was indeed the youngest son. But not the youngest son of this world. But the youngest son from his previous life. His soul traveled through time and space, returning to seek revenge. Mom, after I disappear, Big Brother will protect you. I'm sorry I can no longer take care of you. He gradually vanished. Bit by bit. Under the sunlight. I rushed over, but couldn't even catch the last glimmer of his light. I clearly wasn't sad. Yet the tears just wouldn't stop. Turning around, I saw my twin sons standing not far away. I had no idea when they had appeared. From their expressions, it was clear they had known about his existence all along. Mom, I'm sorry. I waved my hand. From that day on, I never saw them again, but lived each day to the fullest. The frozen world of the north, the deep sea diving in the south, the vast desert, sands of the frontier, the unfathomable mysteries of the deep mountains. I have traveled them all. Life holds no regrets. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.